What's up, guys? Welcome to Survivor Buffs. We are super excited today because we're done recapping the season. The season's over. We've done all of our day after. Here's what happened. Here's what we thought. Here's our player of the week. And we're getting into actually speaking with the people who we've been watching and analyzing and dissecting and stalking on Instagram for the past couple months. Starting today with Sara uh, from Survivor 41. Sara, thanks so much for joining us. And how have you been since the season ended overall?
Um, you know, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I'm excited to be here today talking about the season, but there were some weeks where I couldn't even watch the show. Other weeks where I was really excited to watch it, but yeah.
Mm, absolutely. We know that since the finale, a couple of you guys have unfortunately come down with COVID-19. I'm glad to see you're doing better. I have it as well right now, so we're Gideon is the lone non-COVID member of this stream. We're two out.
I got what can I say? I got my booster. I'm
Yeah.
Man.
How's that been? Have you been okay?
It's been rough, but today I managed to make it through without a nap the whole day, so it's quite an accomplishment, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, cool. I definitely want to talk to you a bit about Survivor. I mean, we might as well. You were on the show. But first, are you from, were you born and raised in Boston, or where are you from, or originally?
No, so I'm from LA originally, but I lived in Boston for 5 years. I did undergrad and my master's there, and then was in LA for a year during the pandemic again before I went on the show.
Okay. Are you a sports fan at all?
So I kind of turned into a Boston sports fan when I was out there. My ex is from Massachusetts.
Careful with what you're going to say next, because I'm a Pittsburgh fan.
I'm
born and raised in Pittsburgh, so I hate the Patriots. I hate the Bruins. The Red Sox, I don't mind.
Okay,
but
I'm more of a Sox fan, I'll say, than Patriots.
Okay. Okay, good. I've had many friendships ended when I find out that people are Patriots fan. Alexa from Survivor Specialist is not allowed on this show anymore. When we found out she was a Patriots fan.
Oh,
you could have came on. You could have came on the island with a Boston Red Sox head. You could have been Boston Sara.
I know. I thought about it, but then it was actually funny because even during pregame on the island, I didn't bring my Boston hat because I didn't want people to think this girl thinks she's gonna play Boston Rob. So I didn't wear it for anyone.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What okay, so you grew up in Los Angeles. So what was it like growing up in LA, and did LA shape you as a future Survivor player in any way?
I mean, growing up in LA is kind of like a fever dream. I feel like you meet the most ridiculous people, and socially it's very interesting, I feel like, growing up. So I actually talked about it in my audition tape. I was going to a private school in LA really raised me to be used to the cutthroat nature of Survivor, I think.
And you said you were in LA before you went on the show?
Yeah, so I think I left Boston March 2020. I was gonna go home for the 2 weeks that everyone was gonna go home for 2 weeks. And then I ended up in LA until the next March when I left for Fiji.
Oh, wow. So how was LA during COVID? Because I know during that beginning part of COVID, every state was different. Was it were you shut in most of the time, just doing things?
Yeah.
Or what was up?
I mean, I was very thankful I was in LA as opposed to being stuck in Massachusetts because it was warm the whole time. It was definitely kind of a ramp up though, because I know New York, March 2020 was completely shut down, whereas California kind of stayed open for a bit. And then it was really harsh, shut down. You couldn't even go for a walk outside without wearing a mask and stuff.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting, but yeah, I was very thankful to be somewhere in a warm place as opposed to the cold winter outdoors.
So jumping kind of to Survivor. I mean, you were on this show that I know you were a fan of. You've been a fan of for a while. You were like, for pretty much months, you were being watched by probably over 10 million people around the world, and now you have thousands of Instagram followers. I mean, just describe that like journey to people who obviously haven't experienced it.
I think it's really strange because I feel like on a day-to-day basis, like you don't interact with that many people. Like that many people don't see what you're doing on your day-to-day. And then to have like all these like clippets, like in moments of all these small things that happen, just broadcast to millions of people is crazy. And I mean, the response from fans and people watching is amazing, but it's also just like anything you say or do, people just latch on to, which is like the other day I posted a picture with a cow and then people are like commenting like animal queen. Like, no, like I'm like with an animal, like anything you do, everyone's like hyping up now. So it's interesting and like unusual, but I guess coming from LA, I'm like not foreign to stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that is interesting because, you had your preseason interviews, and then you have people like me and Adam who are dissecting them, and we're like, oh, Sarah said this. I feel like she's gonna go final six. It's like things like that. And so, like, were you at all shocked at people's reaction to your first impression you had?
Honestly, like it made me, because it's interesting because like obviously we know the outcome of the show when all the preseason stuff comes out. So for me, as someone who was like an early boot, it actually made me feel really good that like I'd say stuff and everyone's like, oh, I know this girl's gonna go deep in the game, because like obviously I thought I was gonna do well too. And it just like happened that like I got voted out really early, which sucks, but the response was really nice because like I was a lot of people's winner picks. Like people really had me going deep in the game, and I was like, okay, I feel validated in thinking that I like could have done well in the game of Survivor.
Yeah, we did our fantasy draft. We were very high on you, Sarah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was trying to look who's she was on my team, right?
Yeah,
so.
No. She was your team. She was your first. She was your first female pick.
You were my first female pick, and Adam was like so pissed off. He was like, "No, you got Sarah." I was like, "Yeah, I did."
Yeah, we did like a snake where like I would pick a guy, and he would pick a guy, then he would pick a girl, I would pick a girl, and we kind of snaked. And we didn't really do anything like 2 points for immunity win. We kind of wanted to keep it simple. It was just whoever has the winner on their team, which made it kind of fun. We would check in every recap episode, and we had like an X over the person that got out. But yeah, my first female pick was Tiffany, and Gideon's was you.
Yeah, and ironically, Erica was like last. Like last female, and like Erica
and Evie, I think were our last two. Both ended up doing great.
Like unlike you, Erica wasn't saying a lot preseason, so we were like, she's hardly saying anything. But like, what we can't really base that off of anything. But
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I gave a lot of content. It's also interesting because being a fan, like you read other people's preseason interviews, so it's like you kind of know what people want to hear going into it. Like obviously a lot of people to pick me, so it's like there's certain things that I read that like resonated. So I'm like, like maybe I should say something similar to that.
You did.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. Like the fact that we know the outcome and then everyone's reactions to it. Like it would have sucked if I was an early boot and then my interviews got released and everyone's like, yeah, this girl's going out early. Like she's not going to make it far at all.
Yeah. I was trying to pull it up. Yeah. There was our picks. Yeah. Erica made it pretty far. It was just, she wasn't really releasing, and like a lot of her pregame press was very short and quick. So we didn't have a lot to
I was really high. I was really high on Voce. I was really high on Sarah.
Yeah.
I love Voce. I'm sorry, we both let you down, but we're best friends now, if that's any consolation.
That's good. Okay. That's good because I like you and I like Voce. Voce is my Tennessee king, so.
Yeah. Okay, so the real question is, if you would be selected to go on The Amazing Race and you could pick anyone from this season to be your partner, who would you pick?
Oh my goodness, that's such a hard question. I feel like there's gonna be so many people mad at me for not saying them. I'm gonna have to go with Sydney. Her and I,
Okay.
both LA girls, spent the whole summer together. She's traveled so much; she'd be really good at it.
Oh
And
my
I also
gosh.
feel like we have a little bit of dynamic duo where she's kind of like the villainess, and I was a little bit of America's sweetheart. So it could be a cool combo to see.
Okay. Yeah, I think she's in Guatemala right now or something like that.
Yeah, she's living her best life, I feel like.
Yeah. I had messaged her a couple times during the season, and she would get back to me a day or two later and would say, "Oh, sorry, I was, on the moon."
Yeah.
Or
I know. She was like, I think she went to Turks and Caicos at one point. Like, she's been all over the place, but I'm jealous. I've been staying put.
Okay. So could you tell us? I know you've been a fan of the show for a long time, and I thought I read somewhere that you've done like even season rewatches too in the past.
Mhm.
So I know most people probably ask like, "Oh, what's the best season? What's the worst season?" But like, what do you think's like an underrated season? A season that like people often don't like. Like for Gideon, that'll be Gabon, which we talk about just about every time we come on the show. I rip on Gideon for liking Gabon. I mean, I like Gabon, but I don't think
Rip on me all you want. It's one of the best seasons ever. Okay.
Gideon. I'm gonna mute you for a second. All
All
right.
right.
Yeah. Do you have like for me it's All Stars. A lot of people kind of put All Stars towards middle bottom nowadays. I thought All Stars has always been a really great season. But do you have one of those that you feel like is an underrated season?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially because people like watching the HD version, so pretty much anything after 16, the original seasons get left out. But I'm personally like a huge fan of season 3, Africa, like first tribe swap, like everything. And I think Africa gets like the credit it deserves, but I feel like it's not talked about as much as it should be. I love that season. And season 6, even though there's some like questionable stuff, but Rob C has my heart in that season.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Nice. Are you an Arhab fan?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
I'm so embarrassed. I swore so much in my like exit interviews with him because I thought he was gonna bleep me because I was like, there's no way that they air like the F-bomb. And I swore so much, and it's on the internet now. So I'm a little embarrassed, but it's okay. I made it through.
What is there? So if someone wanted to get into Survivor that hasn't seen the show and they wanted to get into it and they asked you like, "Oh, what season should I start off with to get hooked?" Would you tell some people like to say Borneo to start off with the first one? Personally, I love saying Tocantins. I feel like it's a season that's like kind of like right on the cusp of new school and old school, and it's sort of like everything great about old school packed into one. Not a lot of like crazy strategic like if someone watched David versus Goliath, I feel like they would just be confused the whole time.
Right.
But Tocantins, I feel like is a great season. It's like it's the season I feel like that relies on the characters the most. I mean, Coach Tyson. Would you have one of those seasons where like you would recommend that to be the first watch for someone who wanted to get in the show?
Yeah, I mean, I also say Tocantins is a good one.
Russell says 19.
I mean, yeah. Gosh, what else? I feel like I'd be basic if I said Cagayan, but I do feel like for people who don't have any knowledge of Survivor, that's like a really good one. But then everyone always thinks that every season's broken up by like bronze, brains, and beauty, which it's not.
True.
I actually always struggle with this because like season 16 and 20 are like 2 of my favorite seasons of all time, but I don't like to recommend them to people right off the bat because it ruins some of it. Like you need to have some familiarity with them. Yeah.
I feel like if you came into season 20 first, you would enjoy it. But if you would watch like I feel like if you would watch Samoa, All Stars, Micronesia beforehand, you would enjoy it like 1,000 times more. So
yeah. Or like, what is it? Tyson has like a legendary line about Colby getting taken down by Coach, and it's just like you would never be able to appreciate that if you hadn't watched like either of them in a previous season.
Right.
I personally usually recommend 7.
Don't say Gabon. Okay.
No,
7's a solid one.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
But Pearl Island's classic Johnny Fairplay move. But
Do you have a 7 buff, Gideon? Gideon has a lot more buffs than I do.
I
only
don't
one.
have that, and I'm not willing to pay $300 for a buff right now. So
Oh my goodness. I just got mailed my buff. It's actually sitting here. Like it still
Oh,
smells
nice.
like smoke. Yeah. It's
Ugh.
dirty. I know. It's like, I don't know. It smells like trauma.
Oh man.
Kidding, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you think you'll ever wash it or keep it? Keep it as is.
I don't know. There's some things I haven't washed from the island still. Like it's funny, the smell of smoke is just, and there's certain things I have washed that still smell like smoke. So the jury is still out on what is going to happen with the buff. I haven't decided.
Yeah. No, but I agree. I think Kageyama is a good one. I mean, there really wasn't like any crazy big idol plays. I feel like that was another one that was very character driven. Yeah, I feel like that'd be a good one. But
I feel like 33 is pretty millennials versus Gen X is like pretty solid to start people off with too.
That's one of the better new school ones for sure. So what was your journey like just like getting on the show, like the process of getting on?
Auditioning.
Yeah, it was crazy. The first time I applied I was either 18 or 19, and I heard back like pretty soon. I think I heard like it was either like later that day or the day after, where I got sent an email. Yeah, and then it'd been like really up and down for a while, and I'm not sure how much like details I can talk about with casting, but basically like this time around with the show, like I'd heard.
And how old are you now?
Huh?
How old are you now?
I'm 24 now.
Okay.
No, and I was 23 when I went on the show. But yeah, I basically got a call like in September of 2020. Made another video, didn't hear anything back. Got a call in November of 2020, and then like went through finals that December. And it was just like one of those things where it was like I didn't know like when the next step was going to be the last step, and I didn't let myself get too far ahead of it. And it was like all of a sudden I'm meeting Matt, and all of a sudden I'm meeting Jeff, and then next thing you know, like I'm meeting the CBS execs, and then next thing you know, I'm on the show, and it was just like one thing led to another, and yeah, it just worked out nicely. I feel like for me.
Yeah. Did it ever feel surreal?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I mean, it felt surreal until I was literally standing on the mat. Like I remember because we also had to quarantine when we got there, and there was a certain point where I was like, have we been like kidnapped by this group of people who was like pretending to be like a Survivor production? Like, because it was genuinely like, it was like, so I don't know. It just felt so surreal at that point. And then I saw Jeff and I was like, okay, haven't been kidnapped. And then I'm like, oh shit, like the game's starting. Like we're about to play this game Survivor.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about one player in particular from your original tribe that ended up having a very good run, Ricard. So obviously he made it to 5th place, but coming into the finale, I feel like was most people's maybe not favorite to win. And the only reason I say not favorite to win is because he came in probably as the biggest threat. It seems like to both the people at home and the people on the islands. I was curious. I know you didn't get to spend like a ton of time with Ricard, but during your little bit of time with him, did it ever run through your mind like, oh, this is a guy who could win, or this is a guy who could get very far? Like, did you see the seeds of him as this huge player early on?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that was one of the things with me and Ricard where it was like, I feel like we landed on the beach and it was like everyone's like trying to meet each other and like all this stuff, but him and I, like, I think we could instantly recognize that each other was playing the game like right away. So I definitely saw like the strategist in him from the get-go. In terms of physicality, he really kept that under wraps. I feel like I was blown away watching him doing like the puzzles and hearing about the challenges and everything, because that was something I wasn't aware of. But yeah, I mean, I feel like you can't really underestimate anyone in the game, because if you do, like, that's bad. But I wasn't surprised to see him like turn into this absolute beast. But at the same point, I say that, like I said, like the challenges were definitely a surprise.
Absolutely. How much time do you think you had spent looking for idols and advantages?
Oh, probably too much time, I feel like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, not like too much time, but basically like, so obviously we didn't have food this season.
Right.
And I very much was like looking for food all the time. But looking for like advantages and idols and stuff. I spent a good portion like searching the island and like didn't find anything. But it's interesting because even in those first couple of days, I know they didn't show it, but people were talking like maybe there aren't even idols this season because I know Jeff said we were going back to basics and stuff, so we had no idea that they would like. Literally, we were thinking there might not even be idols, and we're in the season with like the most advantages ever in the history of Survivor. But yeah, no, I spent a good amount of time searching. I'd say. I think everyone did that those first couple of days.
Yes, but you thought JD was suspicious. So what was the difference between JD searching for idols and everybody else searching for idols? What are we missing?
Well, so I think like part of it was the fact that he went away on the trek and came back empty-handed. So we like he came back with nothing, which didn't make sense because why would he have gone away? So I didn't believe his story. I thought he came back with an idol clue, and also like they didn't show this, but I'm glad I get to talk about it now. He like comes back, like, and he's like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and we're like, okay, whatever. And time passes, and he's like, this is right when he gets back from his trek, and I look, and he's like searching in a tree by the water well. So I like start sprinting down the beach, and I'm like, JD, like, what are you doing? He turns to me, and goes, looking for an idol. I'm like, well, why would you tell me that? Like, and like then he starts running away from me, and I'm chasing after him. So yeah, it was definitely like not an unfounded feeling of suspicion with him, I feel like, because he did like get back from this track and instantly start searching. So I automatically thought like he had a clue. So yeah, that's kind of what it was rooted in.
Well, that seems fair.
Yeah. But also like there's other people, like Jeannie was always disappearing too. Like we called her like the Genie because like she'd like poof, she'd be gone, and then like we thought she was searching for idols, but she genuinely has such a bad sense of direction. She was just like lost all the time. We had a big camp.
Did you have a moment early on, or even day 2 or 3, where you just kind of had a moment to yourself and just were like, "Man, I'm really here"? And do you remember, if you did have that moment, do you remember like when that occurred?
Yeah, definitely. It was actually, you know, like the intros where we're on like the 3 boats and we're just pulling in. It was that moment where it's like,
oh, okay.
Obviously, it's like we've talked about the fact that we had to quarantine for 2 weeks before the game started for COVID. But it was like we're sitting on these boats, you're looking over, seeing these other people who you've been quarantining with, and like, I mean, because we didn't talk to them before, but still, like, it's just like the game was starting, and like, I don't know, it was just a really surreal moment. And I was like, I'm actually here, about to start this game, and then we pull up to the massive barge. Like, that's that moment where it sunk in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I had to commend you on at the beginning. It really seemed like you were playing a really good social game, and I understand that you're like riding this high of like, you know, you're on Survivor, and then the puzzle happens, and you're blamed for the downfall of the puzzle. I just wanted to ask, like, to us, me and Adam, we were really, you know, and I thought so, that you were playing a really great game. And do you think you were truly to blame for that puzzle fiasco, or do you think that was not warranted?
I think I did well on the puzzle. Like, a piece got left in the bag, and whether it was me or her or Shan who left it in the bag, like that, yeah, I feel like I did get blamed like a lot, and the blame definitely wasn't equal, and I feel like it was a little bit warranted. And if you ask anyone from UA, like, I did well on the puzzle. So it is like really frustrating that it fell on my shoulders, but I also felt like I positioned myself well socially. But as you saw, like, Shan like really knew how to play the game, especially like pre-merge and stuff. So I think she was just able to position herself better than I was. And I say this all the time, is like, I think Shan did a really good job of making sure she was a lot of people's number ones, and like I was a lot of people number twos, but I was no one's number one, and I think that's kind of what made the difference.
Did you fall for the pastor approach? Did you think she was going to take that approach, or?
I think that's part of it too. Was like, I feel like a lot of people like really trusted Shan, and I always felt like a sense of distrust, which I think was mutual because I think she could tell that I didn't trust her. So that's probably why we didn't vibe as well in that way. But I didn't trust anyone out there. So maybe that was like my fatal flaw.
Well, I understand that. You're not supposed to trust anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate asking this question, and if it brings back bad memories you don't want to answer, I won't ask it. But in your opinion, why do you think you were voted out?
I mean, honestly, I feel like first eliminations oftentimes, especially in a three tribe setting, it's those first eliminations, it's really like an anyone but me mentality. So I feel like it is kind of a crapshoot. And like I've said this multiple times, is I feel like a shotgun went off and someone was going to get hit by a fragment, and I was just the one who did. I wish I like knew. I just think that it wasn't anything I did wrong necessarily. I think people just were able to position themselves better than me. And I thought that like my strength and like me being good in challenges and stuff would be enough to pull me through. But yeah, that's kind of where my head is at with it.
Right.
Yeah. First votes are insane. And like
Yeah.
I've always told Adam, me and Adam, discussions of strategy often occur between us. And I'm always like, if there's a first vote and you have an idol, or if it's a merge and you have an idol, just play that junk no matter what, because it's just so random. And I always feel so bad for merge boots or first boots or, first on the tribe boots, because it really is just unpredictable.
Yeah, I think it's hard because it's like, I understand why they did a double elimination in the first like round of eliminations, but it's really frustrating because it's like, I tell myself like, had I had a day 4, I probably would have made it further in the game, just because it's so hard to get footing in the game just in those 3 days. And it's like, do a double elimination the week after. Like, don't do it the first week, like the first time. That was like my one thing, but it's just the way the game, like the cards fell, and that's how it is. And that's the hand I was dealt. So it is what it is.
Right. Sarah, do you watch the YouTube channel Hot Ones by any chance?
Like the chicken wing one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
So me and Gideon, I don't even know if you remember this, but we said when we started doing exit interviews, we would copy one of the games they play. It's called Explain That Graham, where we want to show a moment or two from Instagram and tell us what's going on. So let me pull up the first one. Okay. So what's going on here? Explain that, Graham.
Okay, so I do aerial silks, which is like what these fabrics are here. And yeah, in this picture, I've contorted my body in a very painful position, but this pose is called the archer. It's supposed to look like a bow and arrow.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm clearly not doing it.
You're at an amusement park there?
No, so this is actually the Santa Monica Pier. There's like a trapeze on it, and shout out to Trapeze School New York and LA. I love them. And yeah, that's where I practiced for like the whole pandemic pretty much.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay.
Was that the response you were expecting for that photo?
I wasn't expecting anything particular.
Okay.
So, okay. Is it just a blank screen?
Yeah, the picture's not showing up.
All right, give me one more chance. It's really more. It was really more the caption for this next one.
Okay.
But here, let me stop sharing. Here, Gideon, tell them a Survivor joke while I load this up.
No. I can't. I don't have no good Survivor jokes, man.
Oh, it was this one. This one here. But
yeah,
it was
the $10 to whoever can guess what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I can't. It won't let me blow it up big. But I was curious. What do you remember? What you were thinking about?
I think I should think about Chick-fil-A. Yeah, I was probably thinking about Chick-fil-A.
That's valid.
Okay.
I think
Did
about
anyone guess right?
I think someone did put fried chicken actually on the thing.
Wow. Did you send them $10?
No, because
Or did
I
they
needed some
specifically
more.
need to say? Okay.
No, I
They
needed the
needed to say chicken.
specificity. Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
Because
That's
Chick-fil-A
fine.
does
That's
not
fine.
any fried chicken.
Gotcha. Well, I had one last Survivor question for you, but Gideon, did you have anything else?
I did want to ask, you said you wanted to play the game most like Kim Spradlin.
Yeah.
And well, I know it didn't I know it didn't work out like that, but at the beginning, you know, it did seem like, you and her kind of had it similar the game. You were getting in with everybody, getting in social connections. Do you feel proud of those first 2 days?
Yeah, and that's something I'll tell everyone, like, hand on heart, like, I'm proud of the way I played. I went in and I played super hard, did everything I could, and, like, I feel, like, blessed in a way that I was able to play such an intense game in such a short amount of time, which is good because I wanted to come out of it, like, knowing I did my best and did everything I could. And yeah, it makes me happy that you were able to see, like, those things too, that it's like I was playing and I was, like, actually trying and I wasn't just, like, sitting there crying like it looked like at points.
Well, I don't know if you and I share the same sentiments about the social game of Survivor, but I do feel like it's the most important. So
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
glad you were feeling that way.
Yeah, and I think, like, I feel like one thing I would do differently is that I really was looking at the people in terms of, like, ways I could strategize with them as opposed to trying to figure out how to connect with them on a deeper level. And I think, like, if I were to ever be asked back or play again, that's something I would do a little bit better is, like, shut out the strategic part. And I think it's because I have a very, like, logical mind in general, but just try to, like, get to know people on a person-to-person level first as opposed to just trying to, like, see how they're going to impact your game.
Well, also when you watch Kim Spradlin's season, that's what it seems like she's doing. It's just, puppeteering everyone. So I completely understand.
Yeah.
Do you think that that sort of ideology of playing very analytical, do you think that's something that's like always been with you? Or I know you went to MIT, like did sort of like going there influence what eventually turned out to be your game in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a very analytical mind, but I'm also like I feel like I'm a very sensitive person too. I'm very empathetic, I'm very feeling, and like that was something I knew I would almost struggle with going into the game. And like, I feel like I'm in a unique position because I never had to vote anyone out of the game. Like, I never had to end anyone's dream and stuff. And I think that that's something I personally would have struggled with. So I tried to like kind of shut off that sensitive, emotional, empathetic side and really like dig into the analytical side because I thought that that's really what would like drive me forward in the game better. But like looking backwards, I realized that I probably needed to balance it a little bit more better. And I think some people can go in and be purely analytical and like play that game and it wins. But now that like this show's been on for so many seasons and you've seen that, people are kind of aware of it. So it's like very threatening to people as well.
Yeah. Sarah, Sam wants to know if you would ever go on MTV's The Challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would. I'm a very like physically strong person, so I would love to go on a show like that.
Okay. Well, the question that I was going to ask before, Gideon, you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but of how you would play if you come back. But do you feel like if you got that call, you would say yes to coming back? Would it be like a right away answer, something you have to think about, or what do you think your response to that call would be?
I wouldn't even hesitate for a second. Like, I would go back in a heartbeat. I think that I have a lot of potential as a player, and I didn't really get to like unleash all of it. And you saw snippets of it, but there's still a lot of fight in there. And I've learned a lot of lessons even just from 3 days of playing before. So I'd definitely go back if I could.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we hope to see it. Sarah, it's been as much fun interviewing you as it was seeing you on this season. So thanks so much for taking the time out to talk, and hopefully you continue to get better.
Of course. Thank you so much. And I hope you feel better too.
Thanks.